Dear viewers of the Macedonian television, you are watching an interview of the public broadcaster, and our interlocutor is Stefan Dion, Special Envoy of the Canadian Prime Minister for Europe and the European Union, current ambassador of this country to France, and former Minister of Foreign Affairs and of the Environment. With him, we will discuss the Macedonian-Canadian relations, our Euro integration path, NATO partnership, as well as the war in Ukraine and its consequences. Your Excellency, welcome. I'm glad that we have this opportunity to discuss several salient issues.
It's my great pleasure, Martin. It's always a pleasure to be in North Macedonia.
News number one globally are the series of horrific earthquakes that hit Turkey and Syria. Thousands were killed or were injured. The world mobilized. They need assistance. Solidarity is being tested. Ankara requested assistance through the NATO mechanisms. Did Canada respond to this call, and how could NATO provide assistance?
Canada is always there when you have an earthquake or a tragedy, a disaster somewhere in the world. We work hard right away. We have a Turkish population in Canada, a population from Iraqi origin, and they are mobilized as well. We'll do everything to help the people affected there. We'll do it with the United Nations in coordination with all our allies and friends like North Macedonians.
I mentioned in the introduction that you are a special envoy of Mr. Trudeau for Europe and European Union. What is your assessment of the relations between our two countries?
The relation is very strong, and it's why I just said what we will do for Syria and Turkey. I know we'll do it with North Macedonians, because North Macedonian and Canada, they're like two fingers of the same hand. We agree about NATO. We agree about Ukraine, support for Ukraine. We agree about the European Union being something very good, and we understand why North Macedonians would like to be part of the EU. We agree about the necessity to always improve our democracies and to not come back to autocratic regimes. I think there is a strong support between our two people.
Strategic objective of our country is the European Union. What is the advice you could give us in order to achieve this strategic objective, and how are you viewing this process of enlargement? In Western Balkans, it is perceived as too slow. I will also use the fact that you are a special envoy of Canada for European Union and Europe, but also you're an ambassador to France, and it is one of the pillars of the European Union.
Yeah, to France, and before I was ambassador in Germany. I'm full-time in Europe to make sure that Canadian strategy, Canadian approach in Europe is optimally effective. And in our mind, that includes the goal of the Balkan countries to be part of the EU. We fully understand that. We see how much Croatia, Slovenia are successful within the EU, and we hope it will be the case for the other countries of the Balkans. But of course, we are very disappointed by the situation where North Macedonia had to adjust with a name, and now about the denomination of a language. We hope this will be solved and North Macedonia will be able to go ahead. Well, I don't have any advice to give, but I would say that it's very important to meet the targets of the EU regarding good governance, the rule of law, respect for democracy, respect for human rights, a strong mixed economy with a private sector that is functional. So that's the goals that North Macedonians have anyway. It's what you want for your country because it's a good thing to do. And in addition to it, the more you will improve your country this way, the more you will increase the likelihood that you will be part of the European Union. And that would be fantastic with the European Union, but because I'm sure that North Macedonia has a lot to offer to other Europeans.
Canada has a large Macedonian diaspora. What is the extent to which it is a bridge, on the one hand, for building closer relations between the two countries, and of course the involvement in economic cooperation? What is the contribution that the diaspora could make? Are we attractive for Canadian investments as a country?
It's a great asset for Canada to have a population that gives us understanding of every part of the world, because we have a multicultural population coming from everywhere in the world and coming in the great family of Canada. And this includes, as I just said, Canadians of Turkish or Syrian origin, but it includes North Macedonians. We have a very successful community of North Macedonian Canadians, and they are very committed for the development of North Macedonia, and it's an asset for you. I know that the people that are listening, both of us, Martin, many of them have some part of their family in Canada, children that went there to study, and people that are a great asset for the Canadian society and the bridge between us and North Macedonia.
How is Canada looking at the role of North Macedonia in the region?
I think North Macedonia has an opportunity to be an inspiration for all the Democrats of the region. If you continue to improve your country, to fight the bad practices, to make sure that corruption will not be accepted by anybody, it will be out as much as possible of the practice of the government. If you improve your private sector, if you make sure that your judicial system is completely independent, and so on, you will be an inspiration. You will show not only to the Balkan countries, but to the world that you have your own contribution to offer to this universal goal of having democratic states stable, improving themselves with their own culture, their own way to do so. So I think it would be a great contribution for North Macedonia, for the world, and for the Balkans, and for the European Union as such.
Our two countries are NATO members. Canada is one of the founders, practically, of the alliance. Is Skopje a dedicated partner to the alliance, and how could we make this partnership go deeper?
I'm convinced that from the NATO point of view, North Macedonia is a great asset. You're doing a lot. I'm told that for your population per capita, your support to Ukraine is one of the most developed of the world. That's fantastic. I think North Macedonia has shown that you want to be part of NATO, you want to work for peace in the world, you don't want to accept that a neighbor invade its neighbor. That's something you want to support, and that's the signal that Canada applauds. We are fully in agreement with you about the need to support Ukraine, that is the victim of an unacceptable invasion from its neighbor and from the Putin regime.
You already mentioned we're living in difficult times. It is nearly a year from the invasion to Ukraine. The question is, are we doing enough to help Ukraine? And what is your perspective on this war? We can see that there is again a war raging on the European soil. We believed it unthinkable previously.
Martin, if you ask, are we doing enough? It's never enough. But are we doing a lot? I would say yes. Canada and North Macedonia are doing a lot to support Ukrainians in their fight, to be sure that they will be able to resist against this not acceptable invasion. We are also doing a lot to punish the perpetrators, and to be sure that the sanctions are strong. We are doing a lot to prepare the ability for Ukraine to rebuild. That's something we'll do very closely with our allies, the United States, the European Union, and other countries, and to explain to other countries of the other parts of the world that they need to be behind Ukraine, not only because it's the right thing to do for Ukrainians, but because it's important to send the message, as I was saying just before, that a country gains nothing in invading its neighbor, That's something that must be very clearly understood everywhere in the world, otherwise our world will be a big mess, even more than the mess we see too often, unfortunately, in many parts of the world.
Europe is no longer depending on Russia's energy. This is a good thing, something that changed from the beginning of the invasion. But the longer the war lasts, the risks will be greater. We will see higher inflation rates, more dissatisfaction among citizens of Europe. This surely blows wind to the sails of far-right tendencies and puts under risk the liberal democracies. How can we fight this?
I think we are facing three goals. The first one is to not be dependent to autocratic regimes, and that means, for example, to find a way to replace Russian gas. And it's not easy. It's a structural problem. The second one is not only to provide energy security to the people, but also energy transition, because we need to fight climate change, to decrease our greenhouse gas emissions. So that means to find other sources of energy than coal, oil, and gas, and to do it quickly. And the third one is what you said, Martin, is to keep the people on board. If you lose the people, they will vote for parties that do not believe we need to do this energy transition. We don't need to have a departure to too much dependency of autocratic regimes. And this is not what we want to do. We don't want to see that in North Macedonia or in Canada or anywhere else. To succeed our three goals, energy security, energy transition, and strong support of populations, we need to work together. Strong democrats, countries that want to do the right thing, we cannot do it in isolation. We need to work very closely. Canada has a lot to offer in terms of scientific capacity, but in terms of resources. If we replace gas by hydrogen, you need to have clean hydrogen. Canada may offer that. Canada may offer the critical minerals that we need, like lithium and nickel, and all of these resources in the European market. We may bring it, and it's something we need to do in strong relationship with our European friends.
It is without question that the war accelerated the energy transition. We can even see that our country is turning to renewable energy sources. What is Canada doing? What are the experiences of Canada that we could benefit from?
Canada needs to do a lot because we are an extractive economy. That means that today we are producing about all the resources the world needs. And when we are doing it, we are sending a lot of greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere because we are extracting this resource. But we are aware of that. We are doing our best to decrease our footprint. For example, the best technology to capture the CO2 when you exploit oil or gas is Canada. Canada has the leadership of the phase out of coal power plants in the world. Canada is a leader for carbon pricing system to be sure that emissions will not be free. And Canada has a strong plan to bring the critical minerals, the critical resources we'll need for electrifying or transportation, for example, to the market. So Canada has a great role to play, and the Prime Minister is convinced, Prime Minister Trudeau is convinced that we need to do more. And that's a debate in Canada as it is a debate in North Macedonia and everywhere. How to do more, but to keep the people on board. The people must feel that this transition toward clean energy is done with them. That's a key point, not try to do it without the people.
You had the honor of chairing the United Nations Conference on Climate Changes. What I know for sure that will be interesting for our viewers is that you have proposed the greenest ever budget of Canada. The question is, are we doing enough? Because this is not a battle that one country wages only. Should we do more? And do we maybe need to change our approach?
I just explained, Martin, that it's important to keep the people with you. In 2008, I was the leader of the opposition in Canada, and I campaigned on the green shift with a carbon pricing system where we were cutting the taxes for people, but we were increasing the price of pollution. So instead of being a tax on what you earn, you were on what you burn. That was the plan. And we have been defeated by my opponent, the Prime Minister of the time, Prime Minister Harper, who campaigned and saying, don't vote for Dion, he will tax you. And so we have been clearly defeated. But today when I walk in Canada in the street, people stop me and said, Mr. Dion, you were right, but ahead of your time. Thank you very much, but it's not good in politics to be ahead of your time. You need to find a way to be with the people and to accompany them in the changes you want to make. In 2008, I went maybe too far for what Kenyans were really ready to accept at that time, but now we see we need to act because the situation between humankind and the planet is not good. You have a kind of clash between the ability of the planet to sustain our way of life. We need to adjust that. We need to find a way to decrease our greenhouse gas emissions, to protect the species, the animals, the vegetables that are dying because our footprint is too heavy for them. I think it's doable to have a real sustainable development, not a self-destructing development, a sustainable development that will protect the rights of our children and the generations to come to have a healthy life within this planet.
Let's hope that what you saw some years ago will finally be recognized by others as our goal, because we are all sharing the same planet. Thank you very much for this interview. It was an honor, truly.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much.